This is TB Talks and BS Walks. Join the conversation or the BS. Here are the masterminds behind the microphone, Tyler and Brian.
Hey everybody, welcome to TB Talks and BS Walks. I am one of your hosts, Brian, and I am joined today, of course, as always, with Tyler. We're going to be going over a few things this week.
Yes, sir.
We got quite a bit to cover. This may be one of our longer ones. It depends. There's a lot that happened over this last week. Of course, the second, I believe, was the day of the Vegas shooting. Mr. Stephen Paddock decided to unload a couple rifles into a 30,000 people crowd at a
unbelievable
concert. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, everybody's getting conspiracy theories and conjectures and everything. And Tyler, I think you've done a little bit more research on this than I have. I've tried to keep up with it, but there's just tidbits of information I don't have. So I'm going to let you take off here.
I've literally been doing nothing but watching videos on this situation since Sunday. So we're 4 days in now, and still have over 100 people in local hospitals being treated, but 58 dead and over 500 wounded. I mean, you can't put into words a tragedy like this. I don't think there is anything, that you can say in fear of making light of the situation. Now, some of those injuries were due to, people being trampled just from the mass chaos, everybody trying to run in different directions and having no idea where the shooter was at. Some of them ran back into the line of fire. They were just scattering in every direction. And so, as I said, some of those injuries were from being trampled, and then obviously most of them were from gunshots, shrapnel, and things of that nature. And everything that I've read on all of our victims and survivors, the outpouring of humanity just trying to help each other, total strangers plugging bullet holes with their fingers, doing everything that they can to help their fellow neighbor. And it's sad that it takes something like this to happen before the love outweighs the hate. And I'm sure that you agree with that statement. There is so much hatred going on in our nation right now in all forms. A 64-year-old retired accountant committed all this. There's been so many loopholes, though, that I don't know what to believe. They uncover more and more pieces to this puzzle every day. Now they're saying that there was more than one shooter. I actually saw a video today from a taxi cab driver that was in line at a taxi station at a nearby hotel, and you could clearly hear two different patterns of gunfire.
Yep.
In two different areas. I don't know if you watched it, but one of them was, sounded like it was right above her head, and then the other one you could hear was very, very faint, like it was, around to the other side of the hotel. So, now they're saying that he had an escape initially. He had planned to escape, hadn't planned on committing suicide. He had 3 cameras set up. He had one camera on the hospitality cart outside the door, another one facing the hallway, and then he also had a camera put in the peephole of the door. So he was able to watch when police were getting ready to make contact with him and see them approaching his room. And, just, as I said, I've done nothing but watch video after video and just trying to to figure it out. Coming from a law enforcement background, I'm just obsessed with it because I can't fathom how that one individual could pull this off. Um, you know, there were 23 guns found in his hotel alone. Then he found another 9 or so in a Reno, Nevada home, and then they found another several in his Mesquite, Nevada home. Bringing the total to 40 plus guns, and 33 of those, I believe, were purchased, they said, over the last year. Now, when you think about purchasing that many firearms at one time, this man passed every background check legally. When you buy a handgun or when you buy a rifle and you fill out the paperwork and they run you through the FBI. I mean, this guy had no criminal history at all, not even so much as a parking, not even so much as a parking ticket. And so he passed every background check that he had to do. So all of these weapons were acquired legally.
Mm-hmm. Well, and when you look at it, a lot of states have a wait time for the purchase of guns. And it almost looks like, being that 33 were in the last year, it looks like he almost purchased a gun, waited for it to come in, and then purchased the next one when he picked up the first one. Like, it's basically 2 to 3 guns a month.
And, there's no national database of registered firearms. We don't have a registry. The only person that has record of that, they have a serial number. The store you bought the weapon from has a serial number that goes with it. But, there's no national database that can find, who bought what firearm and where they got it. And so, there's no limit to how many firearms that you can own. There's no limit to how many you can buy in a year, to my knowledge. If the listener has some information that I'm, mistaken, let me know. But as far as I know, there's no limit to how many firearms you can purchase in a year, or even at one time.
Nope.
So there's just so many things that are fishy, for lack of a better term. His girlfriend, returned back to the United States, and she was questioned by the federal agents, and she went to the Philippines, and the information her lawyer made her statement for her, said that she left, I believe, on Thursday. She didn't even know where she was going. Stephen Paddock had told her he found a cheap plane ticket to the Philippines, which is where she was originally from, and he wanted her to go there and spend some time with the family. So she flew to the Philippines, and then shortly after her arrival, he wired her $100,000, that was supposedly supposed to go to a home for her family. She took it as though he was breaking up with her, from all the accounts that I read, because she had no idea why she was being sent to the Philippines and why he was sending this much money. So, according to her, she knows nothing. So, his brother has had several interviews, and he has no idea why. He said his brother, didn't even know his brother was capable of doing something like this, that he was one of those people that, was pretty quiet and kept to himself, but had sent out a text to him asking if their mom was okay after the hurricanes, and said he seemed to be, a loving and caring guy, and obviously was a multimillionaire, had a gambling problem. But, I think that there's more to it than that. There was a note left on the table. There was some photographs rather, that were leaked that, showed a pen and what appeared to be a note on the table, just above where he was found dead. And they've already said that they found a note, but it was not a suicide note. They won't release what the note said. I've heard other accounts of people saying that they found an Antifa pamphlet in his room, which I know that you're going to cover more on that as we go. So, are the two related? I just don't believe I don't believe that this man was by himself, and I think that there's more to the story that we're not getting. I know that the investigation takes time, but I just believe that there's more to the story that we're not getting, and this man had to have had some help. Because how do you know, carry 10 suitcases full of firearms up to your hotel room and then not raise suspicion? I mean, now I understand that, you know, a hotel is a private property. So, like when you go to a sporting event, a game, or you go to a concert, at any public event, you know, they do bag checks and they check your bags, or they have metal detectors and they check your person because that's a public event. But a hotel is a private property.
Yep.
So there's no, you know, eye raising when somebody's seen carrying large amounts of luggage to their room, especially when you're in Vegas. A lot of those big guys that go to Vegas that spend tens of thousands of dollars a day stay there for long periods of time. So, you know, they don't bat an eye about that stuff.
Nope.
When you and I think about that, you know, you think, well, this guy's already on camera. He was on surveillance, obviously coming into the hotel. So he's got to be on surveillance somewhere, toting suitcases up an elevator or upstairs. And maybe they'll release that footage, you know, in time as the investigation goes on. But I don't know, man. It's a terrible, terrible thing. And, you know, where does the threshold have to get before we stop taking our families anywhere?
Yeah, well,
I mean, that's...
you really can't prepare, or, well, you can't expect anything like this. You can't assume something like this is going to happen everywhere you go. There's been talk about how it could have been prevented. One of the guys I work with pretty much said it best. Like, there's a reason that these big events are normally in stadiums or in enclosed areas. It's because there's security enough to make sure something like this doesn't happen. Like, the president does not do open air events without it being somewhere where risk is minimal. So I understand this is Vegas and stuff's always going on, and they had this huge open air thing and they were going to have a concert. And I understand that all, but there was no security. There was no checking for things. They had hotels completely around them. There was no way security could go through every hotel and every hotel room and everybody staying in a hotel to check for this stuff. There's just too many variables. So, I mean, the only prepared thing they could have done was put it at a stadium. It probably would have minimized the amount of life lost, but really, there's, like I said, there's no real way to, you know, expect something like this.
Well, you know, I mean, you're correct. There is no way to prepare for it, ever. And, you know, I'd always wondered when something like that was going to happen and when somebody was going to target a sporting event or a concert, you know, because that's the places where you have such a large gathering of people in one area. And, man, from his angle, you know, 32nd floor, they said he had they said he had about a quarter of a mile field of view. I mean, it would have been like shooting fish in a barrel. You know, I mean, you could just spray the whole crowd, and obviously he hit hundreds. And, you know, just something else that further intrigues me is that this man had no military history. Obviously he was a avid gun collector that nobody knew about. He had some kind of secret life that they're starting to discover that nobody knew about. But, well, man,
and being that we don't know if there was a second person involved or what he, you know, is capable of.
There has to be. You know, there was a different account, too, to where the audio from the police radios in Vegas were saying that they saw muzzle flash coming from about the 4th floor, I believe. So, you know, there has to be more than one shooter. There has to be. I fired an automatic weapon before, and it takes stamina to do that. I mean, you fire about 100 rounds, and you're tired. I mean, those weapons are heavy, and it takes a lot of strength to hold those weapons on target. You know, when you have rapid fire like that, and you think of how many rounds that he fired. You know, I mean, I would think that'd be difficult for a 64-year-old man that has no military experience. I mean, maybe that's
Yeah.
just me, but that seems like it would be super difficult to me.
Well, the first video they released, it had Jason Aldean on stage and everything, and it was the one
Yeah,
where he was running back, and you could hear the gunfire starting. Well, as you
yeah.
listen to it, it did sound. I've been telling people it
Everybody thought
sounds
it
like
was
there were two.
fireworks. Yep.
Well, yeah,
And
but
everybody
I thought it
obviously
sounded like
initially,
two different ones.
it's because I believe there was. And every one of the
Yeah.
weapons that they found in his hotel room had bump stocks on them, which bump stock is, they're again totally legal. They're fairly inexpensive,
Mm.
and you can put them on the stock of your firearm that gives you the ability to create a fully automatic like fire pattern.
Yeah.
And you know, I just am not sold on the fact that he was by himself.
No.
A security guard that was on that floor was shot in the leg, and they actually released a timeline. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I think they said the first shots came about 5 after 10 Vegas time. Obviously, Jason Aldean was on Aldean was on stage, and about 10:05 the first shots came out, and then at 10:18 they said there was a break. So the firing went on pretty consistently for about 10 minutes. And then at 10:55, the police had surrounded the room. And then at 11:50 is when they found Stephen Paddock dead. They went to breach the door, and when they breached the door, he was already dead inside the room. So the security guard that was shot in the leg was up on that floor. And from all accounts that I've read, Stephen Paddock obviously had some kind of an escape plan intact. I don't think he planned on dying in his hotel room. But he saw the security guard approaching from the cameras he had set up, and he turned and fired about 200 rounds through the door, they said, and one of those striking him in the leg. But if you look at it, let's put ourselves in the shooter situation. If you commit something like that, there's only about 3 different ways that it's going to end. Obviously, you're going to commit suicide. 2, you're going to die in a hail of gunfire from a shootout with the police. Or 3, you're going to go to options B, C, D, and so on until the cops finally stop you. So there's only about 3 different ways that any situation like that is going to go. So I believe that he had more things that he was going to do. Obviously, they found 1,600 more rounds in his vehicle in the parking lot, and they found a bunch of ammonium nitrate, I believe, which is a explosive or a chemical used to make explosives.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously he wasn't done with what he was doing. And here's something that I recently found out that will make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. In August, a man by the name of Stephen Paddock checked into a hotel in Chicago that overlooked an outdoor music festival. Last month, there was another hotel in another city, I don't remember the city, that Stephen Paddock checked into that overlooked an outdoor music festival. You mean to tell me that this man wasn't planning that?
Well, as many guns as he brought, I kind of figured he planned it, but I did not realize how far back.
Well, and I said, this was revealed today, sometime today. They had a press conference late last night, and all of this information was brought to light. So the only thing that nobody can figure out is this man's life history. And they're looking now at, just his life in the last year. Who did he have contact with? Right. He had very few close friends. He didn't talk to anybody. All the neighbors in the 2 different areas that he lived in. I know the one in Mesquite was in a cul-de-sac, and he paid cash for the property, $330, paid cash for it. and then ended up putting up a security fence around the property. He was just one of those people that wanted to be left alone. He liked his privacy. Obviously, his girlfriend stated that, she didn't know him to be violent at all. So, I don't know, man. I'm at a loss for words. And obviously, our hearts go out to the friends and family of the victims. And I hope that if any of you had anybody in Vegas over the weekend, that you've made contact with them and that you've been assured that they're safe. I mean, you just can't fathom a situation like this.
Yeah.
But
it's a mess.
And now, I've already been in some heated debates with different people over gun control.
Yeah.
And I will tell you right now, it's probably a unpopular vote, but I'm in full support of the Second Amendment. Now, don't get me wrong. I believe that there does need to be some regulations. I know when Obama was in office, he made the background process a little more in-depth. But I also know that he also made it okay for the mentally ill to possess firearms. I don't agree with that. We don't know if this guy had some kind of a mental illness.
Or breakdown of some sort at some point.
Yeah, we don't know anything about it at all. But I do know that if you take guns away completely, that's not going to stop criminals from getting them, because most of any crime that's been committed with a firearm, I think only 4% of those weapons were purchased legally.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take away guns completely, that's only going to reduce the risk by 4%, roughly, if you go by the stats. Obviously, criminals don't obey the law, so they're going to find means to get them. Drugs are illegal, but people still have them. All you're doing at that point is you're doing at that point is taking away law-abiding citizens' ability to protect themselves. Now, somebody did pose a suggestion that I didn't necessarily disagree with, and they said that, okay, let's put a ban on assault rifles, where you cannot buy an assault rifle. Well, for the few that are gun enthusiasts, you might remember that they had an assault rifle back in '94, and it lasted roughly 10 years. And in those 10 years, really didn't see that much of a difference.
We might have to go over that again. You were breaking up on the audio. What was that again?
I was saying that some of the gun enthusiasts might know that there was a ban on assault rifles back in '94, and that lasted roughly 10 years. And during those 10 years, we really didn't see that big of a difference. It really didn't make that big of an impact. But, so let's take that into consideration. You put regulations on assault rifles and you permanently ban them. I know there are other countries that don't allow guns at all. And, some would argue that they seem to be doing okay. I know that, the right to bear arms, the whole reason the Second Amendment is in place was to fight a corrupt government. So, but, please, for my sake and for yours, if you are an anti-gun individual, or you have different views on that, I respect those, but, I expect you to respect mine, and I don't want to be bombarded or sent hate mail because I'm a pro-gun kind of guy. There are regulations that we could put in place against a certain type of weapon that might help. But Aaron, who was on the show on Wednesday, had stated that he would like to see something done. Doing nothing isn't accomplishing anything, so he would rather see us try to do something than nothing at all. And I get that. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and I think, you and I have similar views on the Second Amendment. I mean,
Hmm.
you work in a casino, so you're probably more familiar with how casinos work than I am, you know.
Well, it's different for each casino. In ours, we're so small, you know, guns aren't really our main focus. We have them available, but we are
Yeah.
not readily armed. It's normally for big escorts and stuff like that, and I haven't ever seen them. I'm normally just the front door, bouncer almost. It's a I just enforce policy. I don't really in a position to do too much else.
Do you guys
However,
go up and
in the
check
larger
rooms, or are
casinos,
you
they
guys
are armed.
are you guys
We are
are you
not a
guys a
hotel.
hotel also, or okay, so you're just
No.
casino. Yep.
Right. So it's a little different there. As far as doing something, the issue I have with us, going out of it's kind of hard to put without sounding like a dick. But we have all these rights and we start, you know, putting all these little laws and rules on them. We already have, the right to bear arms. And it is the right to bear arms that are military grade. Technically, we should be able to bear a fully automatic
Yeah, it
rifle, and
doesn't
a lot of people will
specify.
argue that because,
Right.
during the time that these rights were made, automatic rifles didn't exist. And another person I watch is, people are going to hate this, but I catch Ben Shapiro every now and then. My wife watches him quite often. And in passing, I caught him say something that I fully agree with. You can't say that, assault rifles weren't a part of the Second Amendment right when TVs
Well,
weren't
no,
part of the
it
First Amendment right. Like there's,
it
you
doesn't
can't.
outline what. No, the Second Amendment doesn't outline what weapons you can possess. It doesn't say you have the right to bear arms with the exception of anything that has more than 30 rounds. You know,
Hmm.
it
Yeah,
doesn't clearly outline that. And I think that's where people get confused, but like I said, I mean
but I
at this point, I mean I'm for something. I'm
but
definitely
my
not
point
for.
is we start regulating one thing, we end up start changing things on others. So we take away the Second Amendment right. How long before the First Amendment right is then infringed that we can't say certain things? Everything else outside of that is perfectly fine to say, but because these hurt somebody, you no longer have the right to say it. That's the same situation. If you're going to compare these two rights constantly, and this is kind of a shot at Jimmy, I'm sorry, Jimmy Kimmel, but when you compare the First Amendment and Second Amendment rights, and you're so willing to change everything in the Second Amendment rights, but not willing to and wanting to change First Amendment rights too. It's okay to say what you want to say on TV, but anybody who disagrees is a horrible person. The
Yeah.
Second Amendment right, if you start changing stuff around, like we have a law that says we can't have automatic weapons. I am not against that. That is a law. We have decided that that is important, so I fully agree. Bump stocks don't need to exist then. The automatic glove does not need to exist then. These
No, I mean
little
there's really no reason to have one. I mean, if you're not
no.
in the military, there's really no reason to have
I mean,
something
how
like
often
that.
is your home going to be invaded by 50 or plus men? Like, really?
Right.
Like, let's
Well, I
be
mean, you can't use
logical
that.
here.
You don't use that in the woods hunting, you know.
Yeah.
All that strictly is for to go out and waste money and burn like 200, 300 rounds,
Right.
or
And I
to
realize that
plan
guns
and
are lethal. And I understand that people want things to change, but a lot of the change that people are talking about is to take them away completely. And that is not a change I want done. I realize that
no,
guns are different
absolutely
than
not.
speech. I do understand that, but my worry is always the little things. We always say, oh, because this is more deadly, then we should change that. But then slowly the
Well,
things that aren't deadly or important at all slowly end up disappearing or getting abused. Like we have.
well, here's the problem, Brian. Here's the problem. The problem is people put the First and Second Amendments together, and people, for example, Stephen Paddock. As I said there again, we don't know anything about this guy. Did he have some
Mhm.
kind of a mental breakdown? Did he lose a bunch of money gambling? Some have said that he was in debt and owed money. But people use firearms as their voice of reason. Does that make sense? Like, what I'm saying is, people use firearms as a freedom of speech. Like they're gonna attack 22,000 people because they're trying to convey a message. They're trying to send a message, whatever that message may be.
Yeah,
so
unfortunately, yeah.
That's what I'm meaning by that, is that people use the Second Amendment to be the voice that it talks about in the First Amendment. People may not have, instead of just saying, hey, I have a problem with this or the way that this is going, I'm just going to go shoot, I'm going to go kill 58 people, and they'll get the point of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. It's horrible, and I know whenever people say about something needs to be done, it's really hard for me to go, and think that they're going to do it logically. A lot of times when I've heard something needs to be done, it's we need to take all the guns away. And that's not an answer. That doesn't solve anything. Just because Australia says their gun crime is down does not mean their overall crime is down. Just means that crimes involving guns are down. That does not mean that crimes in general have gone down, or that, I don't know the statistics, but I'm pretty sure they didn't just drop off and suddenly there was no crime in Australia. No, if people are going to commit a crime, they're going to find a tool to do it. It doesn't matter if it's a gun, a knife, a stick, a baton. It does not matter. There's a lot of things you can get online through Amazon that are illegal in certain states. Like I can get a butterfly knife. That is illegal in New Mexico.
Oh, yeah. I see them all the time here.
Yeah, so it's not, there's really not a way. If somebody wants to do something illegal, they have many outlets to do it. Taking something completely away, like the prohibition, which worked out so freaking well. Well, you can't find a lick of alcohol now, right? Oh, yeah, no.
Right.
I mean, it just doesn't work that way. Now, if they're talking about something needs to be done and we need to have more in-depth backgrounds, or someone needs to be, clearly, mentally disturbed, or that they can't have
we already have significantly harder background checks. I mean, Obama put that into place, but that's my question is, where do you go from here? I mean, what else can you do in a background check since?
Well, the bump stocks being made illegal is perfectly fine with me. Even with Hillary talking about silencers being illegal. Even with Hillary talking about silencers being illegal. That is fine. That is why we have earmuffs. Okay, nobody's walking around with a concealed gun and a silencer down the backside of their pants. That's just uncomfortable. If they want to make silencers illegal, then make them illegal. I don't care, but don't take away.
I just don't see.
All right.
I just don't see what else that you're gonna do as far as, a background check goes. I mean, what are they gonna do next? Are they gonna take down your address and come to your house and go through all your shit?
It may get down to something along those lines. Not coming to your house, but maybe, visit, almost like a probation period. I don't know. To me, there's not too many more steps we can take to prevent somebody who decided to have a mental break and fire into a crowd. Like, there's no way to prepare ahead of time for that without breaking our rights, without, totally getting rid of something.
So you talked about a breakdown. Let me ask you this, and you give me your honest opinion. For anybody listening, do you think that this man was set up, or that another agency, he was working for someone, an agency, a third party? I do know that there were claims, I didn't actually read them for myself, but there were claims that the Islamic State had laid claim to him on two different occasions. ISIS had taken credit for it. Now, it's unlike ISIS to lie about that. Normally, if they take credit for something, it's legit.
No, I can't say that, because a lot of times it seems like ISIS takes claim for anything that happens bad that makes news. I mean, if Trump's ice cream cone fell apart in his hands and hit the ground, I'm almost guaranteed ISIS would be like, we're responsible for that. We caused the wind that did that. Like, I don't really trust that opinion. Now, as far, like I said, we think there was a second person involved. I feel like there was a second person involved. we know that. Hold on, let me fix this. This thing shouldn't be going off like
Somebody
this.
blowing you up, man. You're man of the hour
Yeah,
right now.
but
Tell them we're doing a show. They need to shut up.
yeah, I can't tell. They're family, man. But anyway, there's so much behind. Everybody's looking for conspiracy theory and some, and it's hard. I feel bad. I feel bad because when this all started happening, you know, you have that grieving process for the families that are involved. You have, the worry about the people who are injured. How badly injured are they? How many people were trampled to death? How many people were shot? How do we help? Who do we get involved with? Who do you get in touch with? Is there anything you can really do? And then your almost immediate thought after that is, and when is gun control going to come up as an argument again?
It
I feel
always
bad
happens
because that was almost my first thought right after, oh no, the
Yep.
poor people. Oh great, here comes the gun control argument again. We can't just let people grieve. We can't help anybody. No, we got to
It
immediately
always
jump on
happens.
that. And day two, like it
Yep.
happened at 10
Anytime
o'clock
there's
at
a
night.
mass tragedy like this. Yep.
Yeah. And so I felt bad because that's where I went to, but that's because that happens every time. Every time. And then every time they get mad because, they can't get rid of the Second Amendment. Like they can't just override it. They can't just take everybody's guns away. They can't just do. So they just get mad at everybody, and everybody's a horrible person, yet not everybody is going out with their guns and doing this. If it was not a mental break, if it was not just him having some mental breakdown and it just random and he just decided to take it out on the world, obviously there was something there because he went to several different locations. If that was released and he went to several different locations that had this, I could see that he might be by himself for those few times and then chickened out and then had somebody help him. I could see that.
Well, the first time in Chicago, the first hotel, they said the reservation was made, but he never checked in. And then the one after that, he did make a stay there. And then obviously Mandalay Bay, he had checked in on Thursday. And then, the attack was on Sunday evening. So
it still could be
maybe
there's just one person involved, and maybe, the second gunshots that I was hearing could have been, echoes. I don't know. I don't know what was going on. It could have been by himself, and he just chickened out the first few times.
There's no way that could have been an echo because there was a video that was released that had dead air for like 14 seconds. And then all of a sudden you hear these really faint shots off in the distance. It's not like you heard the close ones and then you heard those shortly after. Like there was nothing but silence for like 14 seconds.
There were two windows
and
busted
those are two
out
different
in this
rooms.
room.
Those are two different rooms. When he checked in, he got a suite and then the room next to it on the 32nd floor. He specifically requested a room on the 32nd floor overlooking the music festival. And then he booked another room right next to it.
Well, just in moving between the two locations, though, there is a sound differential. I thought I heard two guns firing at the same time, but that's just me. Even if he was by himself, what I'm saying is this could be the work of somebody by themselves who suffered a mental breakdown and chickened out the first few times.
What are they going to do? Go back and forth between rooms? They're going to go to one window and shoot, go out the door, or go through the adjoining room and then go to the next and start shooting over there? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
It's a different field of view. So I can't say what's going through his mind. I can't say if he thought he was being tactical. I can't say the guy was crazy. Anybody who does this sort of thing last minute, nobody knows what's going on. They're either recently involved with a group of some sort, they're having a mental breakdown and they just decide to take it out on the world, or he's had associations with something for long periods of time and just now got the gumption to do something. I don't know. Nobody does. We're still trying to figure that out. But
what about the Antifa pamphlet that was found in the room?
No, the Antifa.
Wasn't there something going on with Antifa that you read somewhere else?
Yes, I actually saw a video on Antifa, and it's through another group that people, may know of, Louder with Crowder. They're associated with the Blaze, and I think they're out of Canada, but they went undercover. They tried to get involved with Antifa. One of their main hosts uh, disguised himself and tried to join Antifa and kind of to give his viewers an inside look of what Antifa is like. They always claim to be nonviolent and, only violent when it's their only recourse and all this stuff. But, you know, everybody just sees them as anti-fascists and, they're just not an organized group, that it's just they're not an organized group, but they are a group of people who are against fascism and all this. And when they joined this group, there was text messages. There was they put a special, pretty much hacked his phone so that they could see who he was messaging at any one time. Um, when they had a meeting outside, they passed him an ice pick and a knife and told him, things got out of hand. He'd be expected to do certain things. And then another guy came up and they asked him if he had the guns, and he had a few in his car and told him what his car looked like. And they said they were waiting for somebody else that was going to have an AK-47 or a couple of AKs that they could use. And the dude just got out. Like, said he had to go to the bathroom, ran away. They went to the cops. The cops knew exactly what was going on. Well, not exactly, but they knew what was going on. They had been watching them.
That's like some Hollywood movie shit right there, is what that sounds like.
Well, they took the videos to the cops. The cops are watching them. They were aware of what was going on, but not to what extent. But they didn't do anything at the time. And then they took the footage to a member of CNN and of Fox, I do believe. And neither one wanted the footage. Like, neither one cared. Neither one did anything about it. And so they kind of just got,
we don't want our hands
side.
on that.
Exactly.
We're washing our hands of that one. I don't blame them.
If Stephen was part of Antifa, from the looks of it, they don't want to have any. They don't want to associate anything with Antifa, and I don't know why. I don't know why, if something is that overtly,
you can be a part of our organization,
violence,
but we don't want our name on it. Like, we're gonna make plans to do all this crazy stuff, but we can't.
Well, and to say they're not organized, but have things that watch your text messages, that you're in contact with several Antifa members across, the country, and then say they're not an organized group, but then have like weapons plans and violence plan if they don't get their way and all this other stuff. If Stephen Paddock was part of Antifa, being that the news outlets don't really seem to care about Antifa or what they plan, it kind of makes sense that they wouldn't release that information, because they just don't want to. And if there was a second shooter, that's another thing I forgot to mention. If there was a second shooter, that's another reason why they wouldn't say anything. It's because they don't want people to panic, because then there's another psycho out on the loose that they didn't catch, and they have no idea where he's at.
Well, I think they're hiding something anyways. I mean, I'm not telling you, you're not going to sell me on it. You're not going to tell me that there wasn't a second shooter. And I didn't think so at first, but, the more videos I started watching and just in everything that they found, I mean, I do not think that it's possible for somebody like that to pull off this by themselves. They had to have had help at some point. Even if he was the only person shooting, somebody had to help him, whether it was carrying all those firearms up there, whether it was, helping him purchase these firearms. I mean, he had to have help from somewhere.
Well, he was a millionaire, dude, from everybody's accounts. He could have afforded the guns himself. However, yes, 23 seems like overkill for one person. Even I don't see the logic in carrying 23 guns with you.
Well, and all of his guns had high-powered scopes on them, and he had stacks of magazines. Stacks. So, the other question is, guns like that, they're going to malfunction at some point. When you're firing that many rounds, they're going to malfunction. If this guy had no firearms training at all, he's going to have to know how to handle those malfunctions. He's going to have to reload. Instead, did he just take 23 guns up there, and when one ran out of bullets, he just picked up another one, and
it would defeat the purpose of the magazines.
Exactly. There's too many things that are just fishy. Yeah. And like I said, I'm just heartbroken, and
Yeah.
as so many of us are. Um, John Rich of Big and Rich, another country act, actually
Yeah.
gave his firearm to an off-duty police officer. Uh, he stated that they had performed right in front of Jason Aldean. They had went on before him. Jason Aldean was the headliner for the night. And after they got off stage, John Rich actually owns a bar in Vegas. So he said that him and his crew went to the bar. And we're just going to kind of hang out and drink a little bit and put on a little private, concert for the patrons that were in the bar.
Right.
And so they were on stage playing in the bar when they got the word that the shooting had started. And there was an off-duty officer that was there, and he said, this is the first time in 20 years that I don't have my firearm on me. And he said, do you have one on you? And John Rich said, yes, I do. And he says, can I have it so I can post up on this door? So John Rich took his firearm off and handed it to the police officer. And they said for the better part of an hour, that officer stood by the door with his firearm out, drawn on the door for over an hour. And it was just things like that are just so cool to see people coming together. And I wish that things like this didn't have to happen for people to do that. It seems
Right.
like that when a national disaster or a tragedy like this happens is when love conquers, and
Yeah.
people just have admiration for the fellow man when it should conquer all the time. And I
Yeah.
think if we started caring more about each other all the time, maybe it would eliminate some of this. No, hate's out there, and this is a whole new kind of evil. But anyways, well, I could talk about the Vegas shooting literally for the next few hours, and
Yeah.
and
You'd have a lot more
we still
information.
we still wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But I do want to cover, on a lighter side of things, I do want to cover some video games and things of that nature. Before we do that, though, if anybody donated blood, or if anybody knows of places around here where you can donate blood to send to those in need, let us know in the comment
Yeah.
section, and that way we can get that out there. I know that most of the places in Vegas the next morning had a 6 to 8 hour wait to donate
Yep.
blood because there were so many people.
Yeah.
So
Which
it's
is
it's
another
just it's
thing
just
I
pretty
didn't
amazing.
hear was covered too much was the hospitals. Weren't the hospitals at capacity like before the shooting started? Like they had to like.
I I I would have to do more research on that before I could give you an honest answer. I don't know. I do know
Okay.
that there were the fire chief in one of the districts in Vegas was at the press conference, and he said that he has worked for 30 years at this fire station, and in 30 years he had never seen as many ambulances on the strip as he did that night, and they were from all over area
Yeah.
hospitals. There were even these third-party little ambulance companies that were pitching in to help.
Good.
So
Yep.
I can only imagine that hospital staffing was at full capacity to
Yep.
tend to everybody, but I would have to do more research on that before I could give you an honest answer. I don't know, but I mean, I don't know how that there couldn't be with over 500 people,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know. But
it's a
I
it's a tough
I don't
situation,
know.
but yeah. But yeah, I mean, basically to recap, we believe there is a second shooter. There was a multitude of guns found. We covered a little bit about the gun control, and it's a
Yeah,
sticky situation. It's a tough one, but you have my opinion on it at least, and Tyler's.
sure.
To bring it to a lighter note, though, we're gonna jump into Brian's moment. The BM that doesn't require any medication. So we're gonna. I wanted to
Mm.
go over some retro games. Hopefully, I can get on a little lighter note and get a little bit more excited, but it's a dark
Yeah,
subject
let's
to
liven it
get
up.
off of. All right.
I don't want to like start crying and shit, man. Let's go.
Yeah. So last week we did cover a little bit about Battlefront originally coming out, and that kind of made me want to do this part of the Brian's Moment for a retro game and the Star Wars Battlefront and Battlefront 2 on the original Xbox. For those who haven't played before, Battlefront is like Battlefield, almost identical on Battlefield 1942. Battlefront took the Star Wars approach to it. The first one was basically, I think it was just the last, like the Empire versus the Rebellion. And there wasn't a whole lot to it, but it was fun. You could go to different planets. You had your conquest mode where you held a point until it was yours, and then you moved on to the next one. You had, tanks, X-Wings, all this stuff on planet side that you could do. And overall experience, it was pretty fun. Not much of a storyline, which is kind of guilty of all Battlefield, Battlefront games. There's not much of a storyline to any of those. But just the gameplay in general and being able to play as a stormtrooper or as a rebellion pilot or a scout and use a sniper rifle, and it was really fun. My favorite was always playing on Hoth and getting the snow speeders and taking down, the AT-AT walkers. I like to call them catwalkers. ATSTs, whatever. But I just the aspect of the game was pretty fun. Like, I don't know, did you ever get a chance to play the original Battlefront, or did you only play the
Oh, sure I
one?
did. No, sure I did. Me and some buddies, man, we spent a lot of time on it. Especially hero mode. That's what we played most of the time.
Oh yeah, from Battlefront. Yeah, Battlefront 2 I think was the apex of the series.
Yeah, that was good battles. Stuff right there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The hero battles, the space battles, Yavin 4 was I hated Yavin 4 and I loved it.
That's why I was so disappointed that, the Battlefront remake that they put out wasn't like the originals.
It wasn't even what they said it was going to be.
No, it wasn't.
Like, a lot of, well, I guess not what they said it would be. A lot of rumor was, and a lot of the show on the trailers and everything was, they had the iconic space battles. Everybody was all excited. Oh, we're going to have space battles again. And then you saw an X-Wing go from the space battle to the ground and start firing on troops on the ground. And everybody lost their freaking mind. Like, we're going to be able to go, go between planets and fire on the ground and go up and take out ships and blah, blah, blah. Everybody was excited, and then they released it and were like, oh, we're not going to have any space battles. That's not what your trailer showed. Like,
false advertisement.
This is bull.
Now,
so I was incredibly disappointed.
Well, a lot of people were mad because they didn't have a story mode, which, I mean, I get it, where a story mode would have been kind of cool for those that don't have internet. It goes back to the... Xbox One and Xbox One not really supporting any kind of couch play at all. But, you mentioned Battlefield not having a story. I mean, they did, and that wasn't the reason that you buy Battlefield games, I mean, you clearly buy Battlefield games to play online with other people. But I know you're more of somebody who appreciates the campaign than you do multiplayer, and I get that. To each his own.
Yeah, I can't say too much on the Battlefield series, though. My first PC game was Battlefield 1942, and all that was conquest. Right. There was no story mode, but I liked the idea. I liked the World War II setting. I liked everything about it.
That was your favorite one, wasn't it? Of all the Battlefields? Yep. Wasn't 1942 your favorite? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But... again, that was years ago, and my tastes have changed since then. I do prefer a storyline, and when Battlefield started having storylines, I enjoyed them. They were just incredibly short and lacking in a lot of content.
Yeah.
But, again, I play Battlefield to play with my friends. I don't really, I still have Battlefield 1, and I still have, Battlefield Hardlines, and, yeah.
That game was terrible. I actually feel kind of bad because I talked couple of people into buying that actually. Whenever I was such a huge Battlefield 3 and 4 fan, I didn't really play Battlefield until 3. But I liked 3 and 4 so much that whenever Hardlines came out, and I thought, oh man, this is like, cops versus robbers, like this is gonna be some badass stuff. And so
another trailer that was misleading.
And everybody that I talked to, were like, nah, like I really don't think it's gonna be that good. And I'm gonna wait, until it's been out a while, or until I see some reviews, or until it goes on sale. And I thought, no, man, you got to get it. Like, I promise it's gonna be fun. And there again, because I was basing it off of what the trailer had revealed.
Yep.
And it wasn't. It was actually it was terrible. So no, I think I was pretty upset with EA on that one.
Yep.
And they had Team Deathmatch that had like 64 players, I think, which is way too many for Team Deathmatch. So
yeah,
not a fan of Hardline, but Battlefield 1 came out, and I know we were all pretty excited about that, but then they have their glitch issues, and as you stated last week, that you're able to get shot through a mountain,
on the Xbox One, which is trippy.
Yeah.
But
I do think that Battlefront 2 is going to pick up the slack, I believe. There again, we can always hope. I really hope that they deliver, what they show in the trailer this time, because every trailer that I've seen for Battlefront 2 looks amazing. I just hope that they deliver that, and it's not, we're not left scratching our heads like, what the hell did we just play? Like we were with
exactly.
Like we were with the first one. So, speaking of which, I finally saw a Nintendo Switch in a store. I had never seen them until this week, and I was in a Walmart in Northwest Arkansas, and they had like 4 Switches just hanging out on the bottom shelf. And I was tempted. I was tempted to buy one, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I, number one, because I have an Xbox One X to pay for, so I got to shell out $500 next month for that. But I was tempted to buy one. I was a little leery when they first came out. I bought my daughter the Wii U, and she doesn't ever play it. But the Switch, I was tempted. Although I just heard that the Wii store is closing next year. They're shutting it down.
Well, I guess it is about time they move on.
Yep,
it's disappointing because I just got my Wii.
Did you buy a Switch?
No, I got the original
the Wii U. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I don't even have the Wii U, but yeah, I guess if they're shutting down the market, then I'm losing the original Wii, and I think the Wii U will still have its marketplace, won't it?
As far as I know, it's the Nintendo store. Like, so everything that you can purchase on the Wii, like when you purchase digital content on the Wii, like that store is going bye-bye.
Oh, that seems like a downfall, because that's the main reason why I was looking into a Wii U was that marketplace. I was actually waiting for it to be implemented for the Switch, just because I like the retro games. You take the retro games away, well, I don't...
and that's, as we were talking about last week too, or Wednesday, when I was talking about how that I buy everything digitally through the Xbox store. I will say though, the one thing that I do miss is I used to buy like the limited edition games for like my favorite games, and they always came with, whether it be some kind of a figurine or a medal or a metal case, or, like Gears of War, for example. Every one of those that I bought, 1, 2, and 3, I dropped an extra $20-$30 to get the limited edition, because it had things that you could, you could decorate your house with or set on the shelf. Or I think it was Gears 3 actually had a big ass cog tag, like, and it was actually really heavy. It was really heavy duty metal.
Yeah, I
And
had that one.
and that's that's the one thing that you can't get buying games digitally. A lot of people want to hold something in their hand, like
Hmm.
those people that still have a Nintendo 64, and you go to the store and they tell you, well, you can buy it digitally, but there's something about holding that piece of history in your hand. Like when you hold a Nintendo 64 cartridge, and a lot of people want that. And so
Hmm.
that's, a big downfall to having to buy digital is you can't actually get all the cool limited edition stuff that you could get when
Yeah.
versus buying a physical copy. I'm
Yep.
actually looking this up right now because I don't want to tell you wrong, but I do believe um, that's what I heard, that the Nintendo Store was going away. But I'm gonna look it up real quick.
I
Um,
could see the Wii and possibly the Wii U going to make way for
yeah,
the Switch because they want the Switch to sell. They
yeah,
really do.
yeah. It
But
says right here. This was 6 days ago. A statement from Nintendo says that Wii owners will be able to purchase content from the Wii Shop channel until January 30th of 2019. So 2 years from now, little less than 2 years, the Wii Shop channel is closing.
Wii Shop channel. So that should just be the original Wii. I don't think that's the Wii U. 'Cause I think it's the Wii U
Doesn't
Play
it?
Store or
Isn't
the
it this?
Nintendo Play Store. Whereas the Wii Shop channel, that's on the original Wii. So I will see. I'm sure there's going to be more information coming out on it. But to me, it makes sense to shut down the Wii. Not a lot of people have a Wii anymore, except for people like me who didn't want to get the Wii U. And now all the stuff I got the Wii for is on the Wii U. So I've been.
I think you might be right because it says that you're still going to be able to add your Wii points, which is the shop's currency, until the 26th of March of this next year. So Wii owners, original Wii owners, you're only going to be able to add Wii points to your virtual bank until March 26th. After this upcoming March, you're not going to be able to add points anymore.
Yeah.
Um, so I think you're right, Brian. I think that is the original, because it says that the Wii Shop channel launched in '06 along with the Wii. So I guess it's just going to be the original. I didn't realize that the Wii U had a different store. I thought it was all the same.
Oh yeah, that's the big reason why I started looking into getting a Wii U instead of the Switch was because the Wii U has the store, but they also updated the games that are in that store to like
I see.
the high definition. So like I have Ocarina of Time, the 64 version, I guess, on my Wii. They
Okay,
have the
yeah.
updated version, HD, new graphics and everything on the Wii U, and I just recently saw, I think it was Ocarina of Time. It could have been Majora's Mask, one of the two, with 4K quality. And I guess that's supposed to be released on the Switch. So I know there's a marketplace
Well,
coming to the Switch, and they already have a few games. I just don't know when.
man, looking on the shelf though. So when I was at Walmart the other day and saw the Switches, they had like one game that interests me. I've already said I'm not a Zelda fan.
Mhm.
They had, some other little third party titles, but I think they had like Madden 18 would have been the only
Mhm.
thing that would have interested me. Um, I don't know. They're gonna have to get. I like the idea of the Switch
Mhm.
and the concept is cool, but they're gonna have to release some more games before I commit.
Yeah. Well,
They
like
just
me, I
don't
like
have.
Zelda, but I would have gotten it for Skyrim,
Yeah, right.
just so I could take it to work.
Isn't
That's it.
isn't isn't Breath of the Wild supposed to be actually the largest open world game out right now? I mean, as far as consoles go,
I heard
I
something
wasn't
like
that
that.
a because we were talking last week about Shadow of War coming out, and then
Mhm.
it being having like two different maps, and then Ghost Recon Wildlands being open world, but it wasn't really. You can only go so far. But I think that Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was actually supposed to be the largest open world map of any console game out right now.
Yeah. Well, you don't leave areas.
So
There's no loading times, which is different with Shadow of War. Like if I were to do something in the Sea of Nirn, it would change if
right,
I went to Gondor. So I could have the Sea
right,
of Nirn and it could be massive. And then when I change
right.
maps, it's another massive map, but they're not all connected. I can't just run from one to the other. Uh, that's different for, say, like Ghost Recon is just completely open. That is a very large open world. You can go from one place to the other just straight running. Can't do that in
Yeah.
Shadow of War. That's the same that could be said of Zelda, except Zelda, I think, dwarfs Ghost Recon, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, it's
I'm sure it
extremely
does.
massive. And I think the
Yeah.
only way you could beat an open world now is if you made it procedurally generated, to where as you ran, stuff kept getting put in front of you, but then it would be like, what was that game? Uncharted? Not Uncharted. No Man's Sky on PlayStation, where you could go to
Which was
different
also a
planets and
huge flop.
yeah, I
Yeah,
played
that was
20 minutes of it. I bought it because they said it was updated and that it was the game everybody wanted. And then I
and you
ended up
still hated it,
regretting it.
didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I bet you weren't able to get your money back on that either, or did you get
I
the
haven't
refund
even
for it?
tried. I just have it. It's one of the only games I have on disc. But
Well, at least you can take it to GameStop and get your $5 out of
yeah,
it,
if
or
ever I want
just
to drive for an hour in any direction.
your nearest GameStop is an hour away. I feel for you,
Roughly.
man. Well, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
Hopefully,
How was
Entertain Mart is spreading from Missouri. They have one in Farmington, New Mexico, which is exciting to hear. But Farmington
Entertain
is
Mart is
like 6 hours away. So
Entertain Mart is like the only place I know of that you can actually still buy retro consoles.
oh yeah,
They've got a few vintage. They've got a few vintage stocks around here, but their selection is usually shitty. But Entertain Mart, they've still got 64s and PlayStations and PS2s. I
yeah.
think they've even still got
Oh, one of them.
some original Nintendo. You know,
It was.
yeah, they've still got some original Nintendos and maybe
Mhm.
some Super NES. I'm not sure.
Well, now you got me questioning
I'm
myself. I don't know if it's vintage stock or Entertain Mart that's in Farmington. One of them made it up here.
I I'm a little disappointed that I didn't get my hands on the mini Nintendo or the mini Super that they had out. That would have been a cool buy, even though you couldn't go more than like 50 foot from the TV because of the wired controllers. But that would have been a cool purchase though, because they were preloaded with 8 or 10
Almost
games
all the
and
games. Yeah.
yeah, all the good ones. Yeah,
Yeah.
all the ones that I grew up playing.
Yeah. All the
And
ones I got the Wii for so I could play.
there you go. Yeah, like Mario Kart was a good one. That was one of my favorites back in the day. And I think the most hours we put in, if you're looking at retro games, would have been GoldenEye for the 64.
Oh my
I
gosh.
believe that was we had so much fun with that game.
Yeah.
We used to turn on Infinite Ammo and Golden Gun mode where it was one shot, one kill, and we had a blast.
Yeah.
We had a blast.
I think I had Day After
Uh,
Tomorrow. Unfortunately, I never got a hold of GoldenEye. I had Day After Tomorrow. And my brother and I used to
they
run
put
around
out
on that and do the same thing.
Was that the sequel to GoldenEye? Like the
Yeah,
original 007 GoldenEye, was that the sequel?
GoldenEye was the one that made a huge name for itself. Day
Yeah.
After Tomorrow tried to, and it just wasn't that great. But I couldn't find GoldenEye at the time I got into 64. I didn't play GoldenEye until after they were coming out with the Cube.
Yeah. What do you think about inventing your own video game? You should do that.
Well,
You should
I worked on a
you should
script for
start
about
with
3 years, and
you should
what I
start
wanted in it
with
and everything.
well, you should start with making like a game for mobile phones and tablets. And there's actually a guy on one of the podcasts that I listen to, Dude Comedy Podcast. By the way, if You guys want a good quality show with lots of entertainment and lots of humor, go check out those guys. They're great. Dude Comedy Podcast with Jimmy Burns, Kyle, and Colby. They'll probably never listen to this, so they won't have any idea that I just gave them a shout out. But
Yeah.
you guys should go check them out. But anyways, I believe it's Kyle with Dude Comedy Podcast. Actually, is working on a video game right now. I believe it's just a mobile phone game, but you should do that, man. Maybe you'll find something that works. Maybe you'll find a hit, and then you can like make millions and pay off my debts and all those things that I know you would do. I know you would do for me.
Oh right, yeah, because we're so close. I'm in debt too, though, so it might take me a while.
I'll be your marketing manager.
No, all right.
You create the game and I'll tell you how to market it, and we'll get it out there, and then we can talk about it on TB Talks and BS Walks with the hundreds of millions of listeners that we have.
Right.
I think we're just gonna start, calling out certain companies every week to try to get a sponsorship, like Dollar Shave Club. Where are you guys at?
I need a shave.
Like, I will totally. I just shaved with my shitty razor like 2 days ago, and like my face, looks like a pincushion because it cut the hell out of it. So, you guys send me your razors, and I'll promote the shit out of it, and I'll start. Yeah. So, Dollar Shave Club, where are you guys at? I mean, we'll start somewhere, but we need a sponsor for the show. So if anybody has any ideas or any connections with sponsors, even if it's a good brand of toilet paper, I mean, we have no problem with that.
Little Debbie, I would be a perfect sponsor for you. Like,
or I was thinking more like Rogaine or some kind of hair growth supplement.
No, I don't really miss my hair. I miss my snacks. I mean, you eat fish and salad for a couple months, and you start missing the oatmeal cookies and the Swiss rolls. And
did you take those out of your diet for a reason, or are you
pretty much
allergic, or what?
No, I had some stomach issues the year before, or last year, I should say.
Okay.
And missed a bit of work, had to go to the hospital. They couldn't figure out what was wrong.
No more Little Debbie's, huh?
Not really. No more Debbie's. No more. Not as much bacon as I used to have. Not, I had to cut out bacon for a long time. Now I can eat it without getting sick, but I have to have smaller quantities, and it's depressing.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I had some stomach stuff. I guess it was about that time. Mine was last February, I guess it was. It's been almost 2 years now. It'll be 2 years in February. But I got it from taking antibiotics. I went to the doctor for a sinus infection, and they prescribed me amoxicillin. And it totally destroyed the flora in my gut, man. Like, totally just destroyed it. So, I kind of have to watch what I eat too. I used to like really, really hot stuff, and I kind of have to eat that in moderation now.
Yeah.
If I eat it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Not good. Not good.
When they took my bacon away, I cried. Big man's bacon.
I don't really have anything else to talk about. Really, we're kind of rambling now, but at least you guys have gotten some good
lighthearted.
Some good, some lighthearted conversation there at the end amidst all of the chaos going on. I hope that we know more details into this Las Vegas massacre mystery by the end of the week, into the weekend, And I hope that by our next podcast that I will be able to reveal more information as it develops. I have a feeling that this is going to be a ongoing investigation for quite some time until they can figure out everything. But please, everybody, keep the families of the Las Vegas victims in your thoughts and prayers. And I don't know if praying is everybody's thing, but if it's not, I totally respect that. Just maybe send some good vibes. But if praying is your thing and you believe in the power of prayer, why send up some prayers for those folks? Because
Definitely.
if you were in that situation, you'd be wanting to do the same. And they don't really give you a manual on how to grieve. Really, you don't really know how to do it, and everybody grieves in their own way.
Yep.
So, but I know that it'll get better, and the city is going to rebuild, and Americans are going to rebuild. It's just going to take some time, but nothing ever keeps us down for too long. My only request is that we would find some unity, and I think that we can all relate to that. We need to come together and as one, and instead of being so divided in whether it's your political affiliation or your religious affiliation, whatever the case may be. Like, we're no different than anybody else, and we all just need to have some love and compassion for our fellow man. And I can't stress that enough. I think that that would do more than any kind of gun control law ever would.
Yeah.
If people would just understand the value of human life and what it represents and what it means to so many. But if you don't have anything else, thanks everybody for listening to the show. We really normally we tend to talk about what we're going to go over beforehand, but this one was really loose just because I had so much on my mind with the Las Vegas shooting, and we really didn't have time to plan. But Brian, thanks so much for joining me as always. It's been a pleasure, and everybody stay tuned. Stay tuned for more to come on the show.
Yep. We'll catch you all later.